Let's look at a procedure that will allow us to identify a graph matching an equation, and we're looking at straight line graphs here. The method we are going to use will involve the slope and the intercepts of the line. Consider the example 3x plus 2y equals 6. We can determine the slope of this line in a couple of different ways. The method I'd like to use here is to recognize that this equation is in standard form. So the slope is equal to the opposite of a over b, where a is the coefficient of x, in this case a 3, b is the coefficient of y, in this case a 2. So we're going to get negative 3/2. It might be easier to kind of get a mental picture of that if we also have the decimal equivalent. That's a negative 1.5. Okay. What does this mean? It means that our graph is falling from left to right. Now, we need to consider some other points to sort of pin down where this graph is, and we'll look at the intercepts. The intercepts are when x equals 0 and when y equals 0. Let's consider first x equal to 0. What is the y value that we get? Well, 3 times 0 plus 2y equals 6. We can solve that and find y is equal to 3. So we have an intercept at 0, 3. This would be our y-intercept. Similarly, if we put in a 0 for y, we'll have 3x plus 2 times 0 equals 6. So x equals 2. All right. So we have a falling line with an intercept at 0, 3 and an intercept at 2, 0. Let's just consider a couple of graphs, typical of what might be presented if you were to have a multiple choice test on such a thing. Let me adjust the papers a little. And remember that our graph needs to fall from left to right. In this case, we have two equations or two pictures to look at. So the slope alone will tell us that the picture on the left is our candidate for a graph that matches. Now let's look at the intercepts. Is the point 0, 3 on this graph? Well, x equals 0. I should label my axes here. And y equals 3. That's up here. It's on the graph. And x equals 2. Y equals 0 is right here. So this equation must match the graph on the left. The graph on the right has the wrong slope. It's positive instead of negative. And the wrong x-intercept. It has a negative 2, 0 x-intercept. That's the end of this example.